Hello guys, thank you so much for clicking on today's video and welcome to my channel. In today's video, OP reaches out to Reddit to ask if they were the a-hole for wearing white to a wedding. Now, since this was in the US, you would automatically assume that they were the a-hole, but the reason behind it is definitely more complicated than you think. I do hope that you enjoyed this story. If you do, please give it a thumbs up. Anyways, on to the story. I, a 20-year-old female, met my friend Charlotte, a 21-year-old female, when I moved into my college dorms in August of 2020. We got along well, shared ideas for how we wanted to divide space and keep things clean and organized, and we had similar interests. Within a month, we were studying and hanging out together, and I considered her a good friend. I also met her now husband Josh, who's 22. They seemed like a cute and loving couple, and I was very happy when they got engaged on Christmas of 2020 after 3.5 years together. Charlotte has spent the last 18 months planning this wedding down to the last detail. I won't say she's obsessive, but it's been intense, and I've tried to help her as best as I can with making appointments, managing stress, etc. I also gave her $250 to help pay for the wedding. Her family can only afford part of it, which isn't included in the wedding gift that I'm going to give her. A month before the wedding, I was still trying to decide exactly what to wear. I wanted something nice because Charlotte said that she would have a photographer, videographer, and a wedding painter. I knew Charlotte had a vision for her wedding, and I wanted her as in control as possible for all of the details of her special day. So I asked her which dress out of the 3 that I'd narrowed it down to that I should wear. She asked if I would actually pull out all of the dresses, so I did. She ended up narrowing it down to one of my picks, along with the dress that I had put firmly in the no pile for being white. It was a wedding after all. She told me both dresses were lovely, but that she prefers the white one. I asked if she was sure, and she said yes, and even picked out a pair of pink and white heels from her closet to go with my dress. I figured that was that. Fast forward to last week, I show up in the dress about half an hour before the ceremony. I get some weird looks, but no one else says anything. In hindsight, this is when I should have realized something wasn't right. When Charlotte comes out of her dressing room for some last-minute pictures, she looks shocked to see me, and then she starts turning red. She pulls me aside and starts going off on me immediately about wearing the dress to her wedding. I'm stunned. I asked her what the problem is because she picked the dress out, and she told me that it was a quote-unquote friendship test, and that if I were her real friend, then I wouldn't have worn a white dress or her shoes to her wedding. I started laughing because I honestly thought it was a joke, and she screamed at me that I ruined her effing wedding and to get the F off. I flat out told her that she was crazy and left, not wanting to fight anymore and not knowing how to deal with what had happened. I grabbed my wedding gift to them on the way out. My phone has been flooded with texts, voicemail, and social media notifications from her friends, and her family about what an a-hole I am, but I honestly don't see what I did wrong. Am I really the a-hole here? The majority of the responses were not the a-hole comments, such as the following. Yep, she tested whether or not she was your friend, and guess what? She's not. When someone is mad at you because they lied to you and you believe them, that person is the a-hole. Regardless of what conventions exist in the broader culture about colors of dresses, your friend lied about your face and embarrassed you in public just to see if she could. Not the a-hole. Someone else commented, not the a-hole. I was super ready to say, you're the a-hole, but this chick picked out a dress as a friendship test? That's absolutely bananas. She's an attention-seeking psycho, and I'd say stay as far away from her and any of her flying monkeys as possible. If there are any mutuals, you don't want to give up without a fight. Maybe make a statement about what she did and how inappropriate her actions were to trick you. However, there were some other judgments to which OP also replied. One of the judgments was as follows. Everyone's an a-hole here. She's the a-hole because she played horrible games and won horrible prizes. Her own fault, and she sounds like a horrible friend. You because even with the express approval of the bride, you were aware that wearing white to the Western wedding is not the done thing, which means at best, you must know you'd have spent half of the event with people giving you side eyes and the other half having to explain as multiple people went to the bride and said, "Do you know that your so-called friend is wearing white?" It was always going to be a talking point. You could have just said to her at the time, "Nah, it'll cause too much drama and people will spend the entire day talking about whether or not I was trying to upstage you and it's not worth it." The fact that you don't have the sense to do that makes you also an a-hole, although less of one than her. OP replied, "There are a lot of Western weddings that have no dress code or allow you/ask you to wear white. I've been to a couple. And no, I had no idea that I'd be getting side-eyed when I was given explicit directions to wear white. I don't see how this was anything but a setup to cause drama, and if that is indeed what it was, then how am I the a-hole for falling into a trap?" The original commenter replied, "Okay, point taken. Maybe it is done in some places, but clearly not commonly where you live, or you wouldn't have discounted the dress in the first place, nor would you have asked her repeatedly if it was a good idea considering you'd put it, quote-unquote, in the no pile. It was a wedding after all. So you knew it was at least minimally controversial. So you must have known that there'd be a chance that lots of, maybe even a majority of, the people there that day would be aware of that too. And if that's the case, I don't really know why you'd agree to do something that at a minimum makes you look bad to other people, and at a worst case causes a stir and draws attention on someone else's wedding day. That's why I think you both suck. She's definitely worse, but you should have thought ahead of how your dress choice would look to other people, seeing as you were personally clearly aware of the cultural norm around wearing white and had initially decided not to for that exact reason." OP replied, "It's not common here, but it happens. The bride comes from a more traditional family, and despite making some non-traditional decisions, I still felt the need to ask to be sure. She didn't have her wedding in a church, she didn't wear white, etc, etc. A number of things around here that would have been typical to do that she opted out of. With her word that I should wear white, there was no way I could have known she was just trying to start something. I had no idea that she had apparently told others to adhere to a more traditional dress code. Hell, I had originally been told that the groomsmen would wear jeans." Someone else commented, "You're the a-hole. Even if your friend said that it was okay to wear white, you should not have worn the dress. I mean, come on, it's common sense to not wear white to a wedding. The whole friendship test thing is total BS. So your friend sounds very immature. So even though she said to wear the dress, you did the wrong thing by actually wearing it. I don't know why weddings are such a magnet for drama, but even if your friend didn't react that way, there would have been issues with the other guests. As you saw, the guests there were staring at you and not in a nice way. You're the a-hole for knowing better than to wear white to a wedding, and your friend is also the a-hole. Her behavior is ridiculous." OP replied, "I wasn't getting dirty looks, just curious ones. I asked Charlotte multiple times and cited the quote-unquote rule, but she pressed that she wanted me to wear white. I was only doing what she asked." The original commenter replied, "I do understand that. I get where you're coming from, but still, you should not have worn that color. It seems like Charlotte was trying to set you up to embarrass you at her own wedding, and you fell for it. The reason why I say you're the a-hole is because you should have known better, not because I think you are the true a-hole in this situation. Charlotte is the true a-hole, and she clearly isn't your real friend." To which OP replied, "Was I supposed to read her mind? Her opinion for her own wedding overrides social conventions. It also wasn't her only non-traditional choice. She did a few other things that you quote-unquote shouldn't do, so I thought that meant that she was being genuine. Aside from, me asking about a dozen times to make sure and trusting her as my friend." OP then added some edits to the original post to make some clarifications. They say, "Quite a few people have said you're the a-hole or everyone's an a-hole here because you, quote-unquote, should know not to wear white anyway. And I just wanted to clarify that I brought up this point to Charlotte more than once while asking if she was sure, and she insisted that I wear the white dress. She said that I would look lovely and she wanted me to look my best for her wedding because she wanted very nice pictures and videos. I would not have worn this dress if she had not assured me multiple times that it was what she wanted. Someone made a comment about how, quote-unquote, if the bride is wearing white, I should at least be prepared for the weird glances. The bride didn't even wear white. That was another non-traditional thing that she did. She wore blue. Okay, it's been a crazy few days since I posted that. I had to wait until I was home to read all of the comments, and they just kept pouring in. Thank you to everyone who gave me feedback on why they thought that I was or was not the a-hole. I texted Charlotte the day after making the post, sometime around 4 p.m, and told her that she had 48 hours to tell her friends and family the truth and get them to stop sending me hateful messages, or I'd tell them the truth myself. She told me I had no proof and that no one would believe me. I should have just gone ahead and posted proof, but I wanted things to be ended as diplomatically and non-dramatically as possible. I called her husband around lunchtime 2 days later to see if he could talk some sense into her, and that's when things got weird. I had him on speaker and was recording the conversation so that I had extra evidence in case he knew about the dress thing. At this point, I didn't know if he did or didn't. It turns out that he did, and when I tried to convince him to talk Charlotte down, he tried to talk me down, saying that I needed to let it go and just admit that I was wrong so that everyone could move on. He said, "Charlotte can be a little dramatic, you know that. She loves attention. She'll forgive you if you apologize." I told him that I didn't do anything wrong, but he said that, quote-unquote, I know, but just suck it up and apologize anyway. That's what I do. I told him that I wasn't going to apologize and that they only had a few hours before I told the truth for them. And then he offered to sleep with me as an apology. What? I told him to F off and hung up. I waited out the remaining bit of those 48 hours and then I took to Facebook and posted screenshots of that conversation, plus the couple of times I checked in with her about the dress by text, featuring the date and timestamps. I also added the recording of her husband hitting on me. This was Friday evening. Now it's Monday morning and I've had to block Charlotte, her husband, and the few of the friends and family who still support them and are cross with me about, quote-unquote, trying to ruin their marriage. Most people have reached out to apologize, but I'm honestly just thankful that this is all over. I'm hoping my social circle can go back to normal after this and that this will turn into another funny story I can tell friends in the future. OP then added, "Just a note, because a lot of people have bought up the $250. No, I haven't gotten it back, but I did send her and her husband a Venmo request for the money back. I'd also like to make it clear to those arguing about it. I didn't give Charlotte the money because she asked for it. I donated it of my own volition because I knew that she still had part of the wedding left to pay for and I wanted to take a tiny bit of the stress off of her in that area since I could afford to. Her family wasn't covering 3/4 because it was too expensive. It's because they believe that when you get married, you should cover some of the cost yourself as a recognition of the kind of commitment you're making. Charlotte and Josh weren't struggling to afford things. I just wanted to be a good friend because we'd become so close and she was with me through a couple of years of very hard things these past 2 years. It hurts a lot to have lost her as a friend. She had become the sister that I'd always wanted growing up, and it really feels like I lost a family member here." So guys, what did you think about this? Honestly, Charlotte sounds like such a horrible friend. I'm so glad that OP stood up for themselves and showed the world how Charlotte actually is. I am curious about what the dynamic of Charlotte and her husband's relationship is going to be going forward. I do hope that you enjoyed the story. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe if you'd like to hear more stories from Reddit with updates.